All right, this is going to be the Microeconomics Exam 2 review. So if you want to pull out your exam, I've already provided you all with notes and what was incorrect, but I promised I'd do this, so here it is. Okay. Number 1, which of the following is an example of a firm's explicit costs? This is going to be rent. Reputation and equipment erosion are both implicit costs. Number 2, so that's A. Number 2, which of the following is an example of a firm's implicit costs? R&D, physical depreciation of a building, or labor costs. Research and development and labor costs are both explicit costs. Physical depreciation is the answer, B. Number 3, which type of profit is more important to a firm and accounts for both explicit and implicit costs? Accounting profit is just about dollars and cents. Economic profit is about both implicit and explicit costs, so the answer is B. Number 4, which of the following is a factor of production, labor, capital, technology, or input, or all of the above? And the answer is E, all of the above. They are all part of production. Labor, capital, technology, and input. Number 5, true or false? Average variable cost will always be below average total cost on a cost-output graph. This is true. Average variable cost does not take in sunk costs, and so average total cost, which does take in sunk costs, will always be higher. Number 6, marginal cost will eventually rise nearly perfectly because of what law of economics? Number 6, and this is diminishing marginal returns. Marginal costs eventually will just skyrocket to where they're nearly infinite because of diminishing marginal returns. Number 7, producing more of a product at a lower cost of input is known as B, economy of scale. So as you're buying more and more of a product, or as you're making more and more of a product, it costs you a little less and a little less to make it because of diminishing or economy of scale. It's cheaper and cheaper the more you're producing, until a limit, of course, right? Number 8, conditions of perfect competition in the market is beneficial for consumers. Consumers want competition. Producers don't. They want oligopoly and monopoly so that they can artificially drive up prices and ergo profits. Consumers are always helped by competition. Number 9, under the auspices of perfect competition, producers are naturally price takers. Producers cannot affect the price under the auspices of perfect competition. Only under oligopolistic or monopolistic markets can producers affect their own price. Okay? Number 10, under a perfectly competitive market, when there are profits in the market, other firms will enter. If there's profits, other firms want a piece of it. Why would you exit if there's profits in the market? Doesn't make sense. All right? Number 11. When only a single firm provides a particular good to a market, this market structure is known as a monopoly. Okay? Mono means one, so monopoly. Number 12. A situation under which monopoly is established by the government is what type of monopoly? And this is going to be legal. A natural monopoly is when the sunk costs or the cost of entry is just so high that only one company could efficiently do it. Okay? A legal monopoly is when the government says, this is what's happening. Number 13, using pricing to offer products at less than cost so as to drive competitors out of the market is known as A, predatory pricing. Number 14. Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution describes intellectual property rights. This is both in the notes and in the lecture. I spent a lot of time on this. Intellectual property rights. Number 15. The natural tendency for a monopolistic firm is to undersupply the market. Monopolies always want to restrict the amount of goods on the market so that they can artificially drive up the price and increase their profit. Right? This is the logical and theoretical foundation of a monopoly market. They always underproduce. Number 16. Monopolies are always allocatively inefficient. The people want more products. Monopolies artificially restrict the product to drive up the price and to drive up the profit. Okay? Monopolies are always allocatively inefficient. Number 17. What tends to shift a perfectly competitive market toward a monopolistically competitive market? A lot of you guys missed this one. This is differentiation of the product. This is how, as you differentiate your product, we talked about retail sales and clothing. As you have a new piece of clothing that only your store can provide, in some sense you are moving from a perfectly competitive retail market to a much less competitive, nearly monopolistic market, right? A monopolistically competitive market. Just because of the differentiation of your product. I offer the product at a slightly different rate. I'm the only one who can do that. And so I'm changing the market setting. Okay. Number 18. Which of the following two are the options of oligopolists? The answer is A and B. You can either compete or you can collude. That is it. Number 19. A formal agreement between oligopolistic firms to limit supply and thereby maximize profit is not collusion. We were very clear about this in the book and in the notes and in the lecture. Collusion is an informal agreement. Cartel is a formal agreement. The answer is C, cartel. Number 20. The natural tendency of oligopolies to fall apart due to cheating is described by which economic allegory? This is B, the prisoner's dilemma. All right. Short answer. I'm just going to give you a really brief what I'm looking for here. First, I'm looking for decent grammar and diction. Okay? I realize it's a short answer. You are practicing to be a professional. Start practicing. Okay? Provide me with professional style writing. Second, focus. 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 Do not tell me stories. I'm not interested in your stories. I'm interested in the fact that you can show me that you understood the theoretical and conceptual foundations of the chapters we just discussed. All right? I don't want your stories. I want you to show me that you understand what we talked about, okay? Diction, grammar, focus on the concepts. Number 1, in a perfectly competitive market, describe the differences between short-term and long-term choices a firm may make in determining output. This one was just about, in the short term, how much do we produce? Period. It's all about marginal costs and trying to maximize our profit. We talked about all of this in the chapter. There was a whole chapter on this. And then in the long term, we basically have to decide, do we want to invest? Do we want to open a new factory and produce more? Or do we want to exit the market? All right? I needed to see some piece of that stuff. Okay? Number 2, look at figure 8.7, profit, loss, and shutdown. Describe each of the important pieces of the graph, when a firm would leave the market, when a firm would continue operating under losses, and when the firm profits, and what factors contribute to all of these situations. Okay? So here, I want you to technically describe what the graph is, the ATC, the ABC, the MC, the profit point, the loss but staying open point, the exiting because we're losing badly, we're losing our shirt, so we're exiting the market altogether. I need you to technically describe to me the pieces of this chart. Okay? That's it. I don't need stories about about anything, about Nokia or whatever. That's not what this is for. Okay. Number 3, are monopolies either productively or allocatively efficient? Why or why not? What can be done to break up the monopoly? Here, I would say, again, I don't want stories, okay? I want you to take each piece of each question and answer it succinctly and fully and conceptually, and then move on to the next question in this question and answer it. And then move on to the last part of the question and answer it. I got a whole lot of just like streaming thought on monopolies, producing this and producing that, and Blockbuster and blah, blah, blah. And how, people need to just rise up and not spend their money on monopolies. No, none of that stuff. None of it. Talk to me about the concepts of monopolies and the theories of monopolies. Monopolies are never productively or allocatively efficient because of the theoretical underpinnings of what a monopoly is. Okay? They always short the market of supply so that they can drive up the cost artificially, so that they can screw over consumers and profit the most. Okay? That's why and why not. That's all of the piece. What can be done to break them up? Get the government involved. Write antitrust laws, anti-Sherman Act, all of these sorts of things, okay? Stop telling stories. Just stick to the concepts. Number 4, research and describe why some real-world oligopolies fell apart. Why? Could something have been done to keep them functioning, or was collapse eventually inevitable? Again, you've got to touch on the chapter concepts and theories. This is about the idea that oligopolies collude to set prices and to restrict the number of products in the market. They cannot help but cheat the other members of their cartel or their collusive partnership, and eventually they begin to compete against each other, and it becomes a competitive market, or it falls apart altogether. Okay? We talked about all of this stuff theoretically and conceptually. I don't want to hear stories about Blockbuster. I don't want to hear stories about Nokia. I wanted you to tie in how these concepts of cheating your partners work in the real world. I wanted you to go and look up OPEC, okay? To look up an actual oligopoly that actually practices the theoretical concepts that we talked about in the chapters, okay? So stick to the facts, stick to the concepts, stop telling silly stories. Write professionally, all right? That's it. If you have any questions, let me know. Have a great day.